Have you ever felt like you were walking through a thick, heavy fog? Not a dramatic storm, not thunder and lightning, just fog. It's that kind of fog that settles around you slowly. You're still showing up, you're still doing the work, and yet something just feels hollow. It can feel like an invisible wall has dropped between you and your purpose. If that's where you are right now, I want you to take a slow, deep breath with me. I want you to hear this clearly. You are not failing. You are not broken. You are not spiritually abandoned. You are not being punished by the universe or by your guides, by your ancestors, by the divine, or by some other hidden force that you cannot see. You are in what I like to call a hermit phase. A hermit phase is not a dead end. It's a sacred pause. It's a dimly lit passage between who you were and who you are becoming. It's Merlin's cave where the soul goes when the outer world becomes too loud and confusing. It's the inner winter before a new spring. And I know that sounds really beautiful when I say it, but when you're actually involved in it, it feels lonely. It can feel very confusing. It can feel like you've lost your internal compass. Maybe you used to know what you wanted. You had a direction. Maybe you had a 5-year plan or a dream or a calling. Maybe you had a spiritual practice that made you feel alive. But now, not so much. Nothing feels clear. You might find yourself asking, why can't I feel connected like I used to? Why does everyone else seem to know what they're doing and where they're going, but I feel like I'm standing still? Today we want to look at why you may feel spiritually lost, to identify what I call the false north, the direction that may have looked right from the outside, but never truly aligned with your true will, and why your next step matters more than the whole map. And then before we end today, I want to take you through a simple compass alignment exercise. Beneath this fog, your true compass still exists. Beneath the fear, your wisdom remains intact. Behind the noise of the world, your true north is still calling, softly but faithfully. Feeling spiritually lost can look like waking up and feeling no pull. It can look like having options in front of you, but everyone feels wrong. You're surrounded by people and still feeling unseen and alone. Sitting at your altar and feeling no connection spiritually. When you pull a tarot card and doubt every interpretation, praying and wondering if anyone's listening. Losing interest in a path that once felt so sacred to you. Confusion about your career, about your relationships, your identity, your calling, your future. Sometimes it can even look like success. That's important. Sometimes feeling spiritually lost does not look messy from the outside. Sometimes you are getting good grades, making good money, going to work, paying your bills, answering your calls, keeping the wheel turning, tap dancing to make sure everybody else is feeling okay. And then inside you're standing at this crossroads whispering, this cannot be all there is. If you are in that place, please understand that there's nothing shameful about it. A spiritual path is not a straight golden road where every step glows. Sometimes the path seems to disappear. Sometimes the gods go silent. Sometimes your guides step back. And that silence can feel like abandonment, but it's not. It's initiation. There are moments in life when the divine does not hand us a map, because the deeper lesson is to remember how to listen in the moment. The road seems to fade because we are being asked to stop walking someone else's road. Often the reason why we feel lost is not because we don't have direction, it's because we've been following the wrong star. A false north is anything that you've been using as your guide point that is not actually rooted in your true will. It may look practical. It may even look impressive. It may make sense to your family, your friends, your social circle, or the version of you think you want to be, but deep inside it does not feel alive. A false north frequently sounds like, I should have this figured out by now. I should choose the safer option. I should stay on this road because I've already invested so much time or so much money. I should want this because everybody else wants it. I should be grateful even though I feel empty. I should keep doing this spiritual practice even though it no longer speaks to me. I should become the person that everybody else is comfortable being around. Should. We tell you to not should on yourself. Should oftentimes reports to us that we're following a false north. Should becomes a cage when it replaces your truth. There's a difference between discipline and self-betrayal. There's a difference between commitment and being spiritually asleep. There's a difference between doing something difficult because it's aligned with your true will and doing something difficult because you're afraid maybe to disappoint other people. Or maybe you're afraid to move away from a pattern that you used to think was important, but has no longer maintained its function in your life. A false north sometimes can be a career path that looked good on paper. It might be a degree program that you chose because it seemed stable. It made sense. But every class feels like you're walking deeper into someone else's life. It can feel like a relationship that checks all the boxes, but your soul feels lonely and small inside of it. Maybe it's chasing constant productivity because stillness makes you feel so uncomfortable. Maybe you're trying to become healed enough or wealthy enough or successful enough before you allow yourself to live. It might even be the idea that your purpose has to be this grand, impressive thing. Sometimes we think our true north has to arrive like a lightning strike, a big vision, a big mission, a grand calling. But really, the true north is a quiet, persistent urging. And it starts out frequently by being a sense of relief in your body, a softening, a sense of here, a sense of now, a small inner yes. And this false north reveals itself as that inner critic, that no. Not always a dramatic no, not always a dramatic critic, not always panic, not always crisis. Sometimes it's boredom that won't leave, or resentment that you can't resolve, or just exhaustion, no matter how much sleep and rest you get. Sometimes it's the feeling that you're playing a role, but you don't remember why you agreed to this script. One of our community members recently shared that they are in college, yet feel completely directionless and paralyzed by fear. And I would love to speak to that person if they're listening, and to anyone else who feels something similar. And I want you to be aware that that fear is not automatically your enemy, just like pain isn't always an enemy. If you touch a hot stove, that pain is signaling you to get your hand off the stove before you destroy your hand. The pain is trying to protect you from hurt. So fear isn't always automatically an enemy. It's not always proof that you're on the wrong track or that you're weak or that you're wrong. Fear sometimes is a messenger saying, don't go this way. Sometimes fear says, this is unfamiliar, and unfamiliar feels unsafe. Sometimes fear says, you're about to disappoint an old version of yourself, and that version is scared to die. So you can listen to your fear and learn what it's trying to tell you. And once you let go of the cause of the fear will vanish, just like the pain will vanish once you take your hand off the stove and allow it to heal. You don't obey every fear, but you also don't necessarily silence every fear. You sit with it. Ask it questions. We place a lantern near it and say, what are you trying to teach me or protect me from? Because fear can become a doorway when we stop treating it like a monster. So if you are in school and you feel lost, it doesn't mean that you must instantly drop all your classes and run into the woods with a knapsack and a crystal. It means that your soul is asking for an honest conversation. If you're in a job or career and you feel lost, it doesn't mean that you're supposed to necessarily burn your life down. It means something within you is asking to be heard. If your spiritual practice feels empty, it doesn't mean that the divine has left you or that you should pack it up and never do it again. It means that your practice needs to mature. Maybe you're being invited from performing for the world into being present with your life. False north is powerful because it can be rewarded. People can praise you for following it. You can receive all kinds of approval and status and money and stability, applause, or a feeling of being on track. You can get a lot of attaboy, attagirl from the world when you're on your false north. But the soul has its own compass. And if you ignore that compass for too long, the fog arrives. Not to punish you, but to make you stop navigating your life by the wrong star. So take a moment gently, no pressure, no force. Take a breath and ask yourself, what have I been calling direction that may actually be expectation? What path am I walking because I truly choose it? What path am I walking because I'm afraid of what would happen if I stopped walking it? You don't need perfect answers. Just let the questions move through you. Sometimes the first act of finding your true north is simply telling the truth. This doesn't feel like me anymore. And that truth is holy. The tarot is wonderful because it gives us beautiful images. And the image for this is the image of the Hermit. In many decks, the Hermit stands alone on a path, cloaked and quiet, holding a lantern aloft. He's not lost in the ordinary sense, but he is separated from the noise. He's not rushing. He's not performing. He's not convincing anyone that he knows where he's going. He's simply standing with his lantern. And the lantern does not light the entire mountain. It doesn't reveal every cliff and every valley, every future crossing. It shows the next step. It's one of the greatest medicines of the Hermit phase. When you feel spiritually lost, your mind demands the whole map. It wants a guarantee. The mind loves blueprints and timelines and answers, categories, and always loves proof. But the divine speaks in a different language. The divine speaks to us in symbols, in timings, in gentle nudges, the book that falls open to the right page, the conversation that echoes something that you dreamed last night or 2 nights ago, the sudden pull to take a rest. The divine speaks in whispers. In order to hear a whisper, you can't be shouting. You cannot keep demanding that your intuition screams louder than your anxiety, because it doesn't work that way. You have to step aside and listen. If you were standing beside a still pond under the stars, you could see the moon reflected in the water. But if you kept throwing stones into the pond, the reflection would be hard to discern. The moon would still be there, but the water would be incapable of reflecting it clearly. The surface would be too disturbed. And anxiety is like throwing stones into the water. Every what if is a stone in the water. What if I fail? What if I choose wrong? What if people judge me? What if I waste my time? What if I'm behind? What if I never find my purpose? What if I'm too late? And soon the inner pond is all ripples. And so when people tell you to trust your intuition, it can be frustrating because you're thinking, I would love to trust my intuition, but I don't know what that is because all I can see is ripples. And that's why you cannot begin listening to your intuition by forcing it. You begin by calming the water. The Hermit says, come forward and I will show you the next step. It's not that you're just doing nothing. In fact, you're doing a lot more than you're used to. What you're engaged in is deep spiritual listening. Deep listening can be the most courageous work you will ever do because it asks you to sit with uncertainty without filling it with noise. It asks you not to run back to your false north just because it feels comfortable and familiar. It asks you to become intimate with the unknown. There's a kind of darkness that is dangerous, but there's also a kind of darkness that's very safe and womb-like. A darkness where seeds break open, a darkness where roots grow, a darkness where caterpillars transform into butterflies. The Hermit phase is the second kind of darkness. It's not the darkness of abandonment. It's not the dark night of the soul, although it can feel that way. It is the darkness of becoming. So if you're in a season where you cannot see that far ahead, I want you to stop assuming that you're meant to. Stop assuming that because you can't see far ahead that you're lost. You're not lost. You're being protected from seeing too much too soon and making decisions that you're not ready to make. If you saw the whole mountain, you might even freeze and say, I can't climb that. If you knew every step, you might try to control and take all the mystery out of it and not learn the lessons that you need to learn and actually start taking steps on the wrong path again because you think that your path is right because you've never experienced the path of your soul. The sacred wisdom of this season is that you're only given the next step because the next step is all that you're meant to know. Think about that for a minute. You're not meant to know the entire shape of your destiny. You're meant to take the next step. You're not supposed to understand your whole purpose. You're supposed to make the next aligned choice. You only need enough light for the next step. What is the next step I take? It's the next step I see, not your 10-year plan, not the perfect answer, not the final destination, just the next step. Maybe your next step is resting. Maybe your next step is making an appointment, sending an email, changing a class, researching an option, cleaning your room, drinking some water, going outside, praying, working a ritual. Maybe your next step is simply admitting that you do not know. Perhaps the next step is to stop asking everyone else what they think long enough to hear what you think. Maybe the next step is to return to a practice you once abandoned, or to release a practice that has become empty, or to forgive yourself for not being where you thought you should be. The lantern rarely gives us drama. It just gives us enough light to walk the next step. Now, before we move into this alignment exercise, I want to offer a grounded way to begin sensing the difference between your false north and your true north, because it can be tricky, especially if you're used to pleasing others or basing your success on how well people like you or approve of you. You may have learned to confuse approval with alignment, to confuse peace with numbness, to confuse intensity with truth. So let's be gentle. Your true north is not always the seemingly easiest path. It's not always the path with no fear. In fact, your true north may scare you at first because it asks you to become more honest, more alive, and more responsible for your own energy and your own thoughts and your own desires. But even when the true north scares you, there's usually something very clean about it. It's a clean kind of fear. It's a bright kind of fear. It's a fear that feels like standing at the edge of a vast ocean, knowing the water is cold, but also knowing that you are meant to learn how to swim. False north feels very different. False north tends to feel heavy, dull, shrinking, or performative. It often comes with a sense of dread. It may make your body collapse inward. It may require that you keep abandoning your inner voice in order to continue. True north may challenge you, but it never asks you to disappear. But false north frequently does. Here's a few questions that you can ask yourself. When I imagine continuing exactly as I am, what happens in my body? Do I feel expansion? Do I feel peace? Do I feel grief? Do I feel panic? Do I feel nothing? Don't judge the answer that you get, just notice it. You can also ask yourself, what part of my life feels like it belongs to my soul, and what part feels like it belongs to someone else's expectations? If no one could praise me, judge me, reward me, or reject me, what would I still feel drawn toward? What small thing makes me feel more like myself? Not more impressive, not more productive, but more like you. These kinds of questions matter because true north often leaves clues in small feelings of aliveness. The song that wakes something in you, the subject that you keep circling back to, the activity that you just love that sometimes you avoid, the kind of conversation that makes you engage, the place where your breathing changes and deepens, the kind of act of service that feels meaningful instead of draining, the creative impulse that keeps knocking, that quiet dream of yours that never fully goes away. Your soul isn't shouting from the mountaintops. It's leaving breadcrumbs. And your work is not to shame yourself for losing the trail. It's to begin noticing the crumbs again. And also remember this, your true north can change form as you grow. This does not mean that it was false before. A child's blankie is no longer appropriate as they grow up, but that doesn't mean the blankie was bad, but it means it's no longer part of their path. So a path can be true for one season and complete in another. A practice can nourish you for years and years and then become insignificant to you. A dream can bring you to a threshold and then hand you over to a deeper dream. This does not mean you're failing, it means you're evolving. The snake sheds its skin not because the old skin was bad, so you are allowed to outgrow. You are allowed to change, to say, this once helped me, and now I need something different. You are allowed to honor your old path without staying on it. So now let's prepare for this mini ritual. If you're driving, walking, cooking, or doing anything that needs your full attention, please keep your eyes open and stay safe. Let your hands rest wherever they feel the most comfortable. Now take a slow, deep breath in through the nose and gently exhale through the mouth. Take a few more deep breaths. Let your forehead soften. Let the space around your eyes soften. Unclench your jaw. Relax your tongue. Drop your shoulders. Relax your chest and your belly. Relax your arms. Relax your legs. Let your feet remember the ground. Now imagine that you're standing in a wide, quiet landscape at twilight. The sky is deep blue. The first stars are appearing. There is fog around you, but it's not hostile. It is simply unformed. It is the mystery before it becomes form. You notice that you are holding nothing, no map, no schedule, no plan, only your breath, only your presence. And at first, this may feel uncomfortable because we're so used to carrying something. A role, a worry, a list, a smartphone. In your mind's eye, imagine placing at your feet everything that you've been using as a false north. All your expectations, pressures, fears of disappointing others, the need to be impressive, the belief that you are behind, the belief that you must know everything before you begin, the old identity that no longer fits you. You don't hate it. You don't throw it away with anger. You're just setting it down. Now bring awareness to your heart. Imagine a small point of light growing there. At first it may be tiny, and with every breath, that little light becomes steadier and steadier. This is your inner compass. This is the part of you that remembers. Now imagine a thread of light stretching from your heart into the infinite future. It does not tug at you harshly. It doesn't drag you along. It simply extends forward through the fog, through the unknown. This thread is a thread of truth, of quiet knowing. Somewhere far ahead, beyond what you can see, this thread of light is connected to your true north, the place where your choices, your healing, your gifts, your lessons, and your love begin to align. Now, silently or aloud, repeat after me. Divine Mind knows, and Divine Mind shows. Again, Divine Mind knows, and Divine Mind shows. Let those words move through your body. Now repeat to yourself, I release the need to see the mountain. I only ask to see the next step. My road is clear. My heart is open. I am guided in all my ways. Let's say this entire incantation once more. Divine Mind knows, and Divine Mind shows. I release the need to see the mountain. I only ask to see the next step. My road is clear. My heart is open. I am guided in all my ways. Now take a breath. Feel that thread of light at your heart and ask inwardly, what is the next step I can take toward my true north? Don't chase the answer. Don't wrestle with it. It does not need to arrive now. It might arrive at some later time when you're not thinking about it. But let it arrive as a word, an image, a sensation or memory, a feeling or simple sense. Your answer may be to rest. Your next step may be to ask for help or to wait. Maybe your next step is to study or to speak. Maybe your next step is to leave. Maybe your next step is to stay, but differently. Maybe your next step is to forgive yourself or forgive another. Trust whatever comes. And if nothing comes, it's okay. Sometimes the first step is not receiving an answer. Sometimes the first step is creating enough quiet that the answer can find you later. Imagine that thread of light in your heart sending gentle pulses down through your body, down through the ribs, through the spine, the belly, the hips, the legs, the feet, and into the earth beneath you. Feel the earth receiving it. You are held even though you do not know. Now imagine the earth sending warm, steady energy back up through your feet, into your legs, hips, belly, heart, throat, face, and the crown of your head. Feel the quiet strength filling you. Now tell yourself, I am allowed to move at my own pace. I am allowed to change direction. I am allowed to outgrow what once guided me. I am allowed to hear my own soul. The next step is enough. Take a deep breath and exhale. Imagine the fog around you beginning to thin, and just ahead of you, the lantern light touches one stone on the path. One step, only one, but it's real. You don't have to run. You don't have to prove anything. You just simply take that next step. And when you arrive at that next step, the next step will appear, and then the next, and then the next. Step by step, breath by breath, truth by truth. Now bring your awareness back to your body. Feel the surface beneath you and the room around you. Wiggle your fingers and your toes and take a final deep breath. Exhale, and when you're ready, gently open your eyes if they were closed. Now, after doing an exercise like that, you may feel emotional or clear or nothing at all. In all of it, it's valid. There's no right or wrong way to feel. If the shift is subtle, that doesn't mean that it's not real. Small shifts are how the soul navigates. If you're feeling spiritually lost, please do not turn your lostness into a reason to attack yourself. Do not tell yourself, I should be more intuitive. I should be more healed. I should be farther along on my path. I should have understood this lesson already. This is not a race. It's not a performance. It's not a staircase. Your path has spirals and returns and pauses. There's all kinds of different seasons, and they're all perfect and sacred. This hermit phase may ask you to reduce the noise. It may ask you to spend less time asking everyone else for advice. It may ask you to take a break from contact that makes you feel bad. It may ask you to simplify your spiritual practice. It may ask you to return to basics: breathing, water, sleep, movement, prayer, journaling, walking, quiet moments. When we feel spiritually lost, we tend to try to fix it by adding more readings, more rituals, more research, more opinions, more signs. The medicine is usually less noise, less comparison, less rushing, less needing to know, more listening, more presence. If your altar feels cold, sit there without performing. If your tarot cards feel silent, hold them and say, I'm willing to listen again. If your prayers feel empty, the divine does not need you to sound poetic to hear you. Finding your true north does not mean ignoring your responsibilities. It means bringing your soul into the conversation. Honor your intuition and make the plans that need to be made. You'll be shown the next step to find your true north. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today. I so appreciate you. Until next time, blessed be.